You are listening to Claimed by the Harbor, written by Deanne Leo, narrated by Jessica Lee. Liv has spent 12 years protecting Havenbrook Village, the stubborn fishing community that took in a feral teenager and called her family. Armed with a broken jet ski, fierce loyalty, and a talking husky who quotes Tolstoy, she's held the line against developers, poachers, and anyone who threatens her pack. Cassian Thorne is the new owner of the harbor. His company wants to bulldoze her village. His investor wants to destroy everything she loves. And his wolf? His wolf wants her. Now Liv has 72 hours to save her home, survive a black tie gala, and figure out why the ocean keeps trying to drag her under. The billionaire says he'll fight for her village. His wolf says she's his. Her husky says this is basically Pride and Prejudice, but with more fish. She bit him first. But he's about to bite back. This story is original, written specifically for you. Created on demand for this channel's audience because you asked for romances with unique twists, genuine emotion, stories with alphas who fall hard, heroines who fight back, and animal companions with way too much personality. Want your story idea featured next? Drop it in the comments. Liking, commenting, and subscribing is the only way to support this channel and keep these stories coming. It also helps other romance lovers find their next obsession, so spread the word. This story includes a bonus chapter, link in the description, and pinned in the first comment. And as always, you can find the entire library at happynovels.com. Now, let's begin. Chapter 1. The last sliver of sun bled orange across the water. Liv throttled back, scanning the darkening horizon where the sea met the hills that protected her village from the world on the other side. Behind her, Surf whined from his custom-mounted seat, a contraption of waterproof padding and safety straps that had cost her 3 months of guard wages. "I'm experiencing a crisis," Surf announced. "A genuine existential gastrointestinal crisis. My ancestors pulled sleds across the Yukon in blizzards. They were dignified, noble. They did not sit on jet skis while their stomachs consumed themselves from the inside out." "One more round," Liv said, cutting the engine to a low hum. "We need to find tomorrow's school. Elder William promised me beef jerky." Surf's voice dropped to a reverent hush. "Last night, candlelight, direct eye contact. It was practically a blood oath, Liv. You don't break blood oaths. That's in the Geneva Convention." "I don't think it is." "It should be. I'll write a letter. Find the fish, get the jerky. You know what I could be doing right now?" Surf shifted in his seat, tags jingling. "Surfing, catching a sunset wave, contemplating the philosophical implications of tidal patterns." "I was born in Anchorage, Liv. I've read Tolstoy, in the original Russian. I have depths. Instead, I'm here tracking fish." "You don't read. I have a library of classical audiobooks. Don't diminish my cultural achievements." Liv killed the engine entirely. The jet ski bobbed in the sudden quiet, waves lapping against the hull. Somewhere in the distance, a gull screamed. "This jet ski, still not paid off." She twisted to face him. "So unless you want to swim home every night, I suggest you earn your keep." Surf's ears flattened. His ice-blue eyes went tragic. "You're a cruel woman, Livia. History will judge you." "History can get in line. Now get in the water and tell me where the fish are congregating." "Fine." He shook himself, spraying her with droplets, definitely on purpose. "But I want this documented, notarized, if possible. I am a classically trained tracking specialist being exploited for my gifts. This is like asking Pavarotti to sing jingles for mattress commercials." He wriggled into his diving vest, a sleek neoprene thing with reflective strips that made him look like a tiny, furry Coast Guard officer. The reflective strips had been non-negotiable. "Safety and aesthetics," he'd said. "I refuse to choose." He dove. Liv watched the dark shape of him disappear beneath the surface, trailing bubbles. The water here ran deep and cold, fed by currents that swept down from the northern shelf. Too deep for the elders now, with their aching joints and fading strength. Too rough for the young ones who'd already left for city jobs and steady paychecks. She wasn't built for fishing. Wrong temperament, wrong skills. She could gut a mackerel if she had to, but she couldn't read the water the way Elder William could, couldn't feel the fish moving beneath her the way Grandmother Pearl used to describe. But she could keep them safe, guard the waters, Make sure whatever was left of this village stayed standing for one more season, then one more after that. It wasn't much, but it was hers to give. Surf burst through the surface, paddling toward the jet ski with his vest inflated around his neck like a ridiculous Elizabethan collar. He'd once told her the look was Shakespearean, but make it maritime. "Excellent news," he announced, scrambling onto the retrieval platform she'd welded on last summer. "The main school is holding at the reef break near Grandmother Rock. Current's pushing them tight. Visibility is optimal. Temperature is—" He paused for effect. "Chef's kiss." "Did you just say chef's kiss?" "I contain multitudes, Liv. Now haul me up, I'm freezing. This is undignified. My coat wasn't designed for extended submersion. I'm an Alaskan husky, not aquatic." Liv hauled him up by the vest, water streaming off his fur. "How's the density?" "Dense enough to make Elder William weep with joy. Dense enough to fuel the village for a week. Dense enough that I deserve—" He fixed her with an intense stare. "The premium jerky. Not the teriyaki abomination Grandmother Dorothy tried to pass off last Tuesday. That wasn't jerky, Liv. That was a culinary hate crime. I have standards." Liv snorted, reaching back to ruffle his damp fur. Water dripped from his whiskers as he clicked his safety strap with practiced precision. Because even when being ridiculous, Surf never skipped safety protocols. 3 years ago, she'd found him floating half dead near the shipping lanes, ribs showing through his coat, salt crusted around his muzzle. He wouldn't tell her who'd dumped him. Every time she asked, he'd change the subject with a joke about fish or a critique of her driving technique. Whoever abandoned him, she hoped they choked on their next meal. But also, selfishly, quietly, she thanked whatever sea god was listening for, washing him into her waters. The village needed his ridiculous, impossible gift for tracking fish through currents and temperature changes that no sonar could match. The elders needed someone to make them laugh during long evenings when the catch was thin. And she needed someone who saw right through her but liked her anyway. Here in this village, she and Surf had found a family. Old, poor, helpless, but accepted them as who they were. That was pack. That was family. "I've completed my calculations," Surf announced, settling into his seat with the gravity of a ship's captain assuming command. "Based on current conditions, projected fish movement, and my impeccable instincts, tomorrow's haul should sustain the village for approximately—" Surf. "Vasessa, 7 days, assuming moderate consumption and equitable distribution, which Elder Margaret will handle because she has the organizational skills of a Swiss banker and the mercy of a hanging judge." "Surf!" "What?" He followed her gaze. His ears flattened. "Oh no. Lights. Massive, blinding white lights carving through the darkness maybe half a mile offshore. A yacht. No, a floating obscenity. Easily 200 feet, with multiple decks, and the kind of sleek lines that screamed money in languages Surf probably actually did know. The yacht had dropped anchor just outside the village boundary. Technically legal. Technically not her problem. But those lights would scatter every fish within a quarter mile. The engine noise when they'd arrived, the churn of that massive hull, it would disturb the feeding patterns, disrupt the reef, send tomorrow's catch fleeing to deeper waters where the elders couldn't follow. "I'm going to ask them to move," Liv said, firing up the engine. "Absolutely not. They're too close." "Liv." Surf's voice dropped from theatrical to serious. "I don't like big boats." "I know. Big boats mean big people. Big people mean big problems. This is historical fact. The Titanic? Big boat. The Hindenburg? Big. Airship, technically, but my point stands. Large vessels attract disaster. I've done research. I'll be polite." "You don't know how to be polite. You know how to be correct loudly. Those are aggressively different things." She was already moving, cutting across the dark water toward those blazing lights. Tomorrow's fishing trip would feed the village for another week. 7 days of meals. 7 days of Elder William pretending he wasn't counting coins. 7 days of the children eating dinner without noticing their parents hadn't. She couldn't let some billionaire's floating ego ruin that. "For the record," Surf called over the engine noise, sitting ramrod straight in his seat like a disapproving admiral. "When this goes badly, and it will go badly, I reserve the right to say I told you so." Repeatedly, in multiple languages. "I know 11, Liv. 11. I have the vocabulary to express disappointment in ways you cannot imagine." The yacht grew larger as she approached, its white hull glowing against the dark water. She could see figures moving on the upper deck, hear the distant thump of music, catch the sharp scent of expensive cologne cutting through the sea salt. She opened her mouth to call out. Her jet ski slammed into something solid. The impact threw her forward, hands flying off the handles. Metal shrieked against metal. She caught a glimpse of another jet ski. Dark, no running lights, invisible against the black water, before the ocean swallowed her whole. She surfaced, gasping, ears ringing. Her headlight! The damn thing had been flickering for weeks, and tonight it had finally died completely. She'd been running half blind, and he'd been running dark. Chaos surrounded her. Her jet ski spun in a slow circle, engine still sputtering. The other craft, bigger, sleeker, probably worth more than her annual salary, had flipped sideways from the collision, drifting unmanned. She'd hit someone. "Liv!" Surf was barking from her jet ski, which had drifted 10 feet away. "Live, there's a man in the water. A large man. He's sinking. This is very bad. I'm trained in emergency protocols, but not for this specific scenario." She dove. The salt stung her eyes, but she forced them open, kicking down into the blackness. There, a dark shape sinking fast, arms drifting upward, completely limp. She grabbed him under the arms and kicked hard, lungs already burning. He was heavy. Dead weight. Surf appeared beside her, teeth clamped firmly on the man's collar, paddling with fierce determination despite his earlier protests about submersion. Together, they hauled him to the surface. Getting him onto her jet ski nearly capsized it. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and entirely unconscious, water streaming from dark hair plastered to his forehead. Liv hooked her legs around the retrieval platform and shoved, rolled, pulled until he was sprawled across the seat like cargo. His jet ski was still circling, pilotless, a hazard. "Stay with him," Liv ordered. "Excuse me?" "No, absolutely not. Liv!" She was already swimming. The rogue jet ski bucked and spun in the waves, and she had to time her grab between swells. Her fingers caught the side rail. She hauled herself up, salt water streaming into her eyes, and fumbled for the kill switch. The engine died. Behind her, Surf was handling the situation in his own way. "Hello, unconscious stranger. I am Surf. I will be your emergency medical professional this evening. Please remain calm. That's a joke. You're unconscious. You have no choice." A pause. "I'm required to inform you that operating a watercraft after dark without proper illumination violates Section 7 of the Maritime Safety Code. I have the entire code memorized. Would you like me to recite it?" "I'll recite it anyway." Section 1. Liv swam back. Her arms ached. Her chest burned. The man was sitting up, wobbly, dripping, one hand braced against the seat, but upright, staring at Surf, with the expression of someone whose reality had just cracked down the middle. Section 4, subsection B, regarding the proper storage of emergency flares, which I notice you do not have. The dog speaks. "Husky, not just a dog. A husky," Surf corrected without missing a beat. "Alaskan, classically educated, and yes, I talk." "Keep up. We're in the middle of a crisis." Section 5. The man's eyes rolled back. He slid sideways and dropped into the water. Liv swore and dove after him. She caught his arm, pulled him toward her, and something wrapped around her ankle, cold, tight, yanking downward. Kelp. Had to be kelp. The thick kind that grew near the reef breaks, long enough to tangle an anchor chain. She kicked. It held. Pulled harder and she went under, water flooding her nose. Panic spiked white and electric. She twisted, yanking at the vine around her ankle, but it only tightened, dragging her deeper into the black. A shape cut through the water above her. The man, still dazed, moving like his limbs weren't fully cooperating, but diving down anyway. His hands found the thing around her ankle, pulling, tearing at it. Not enough. He wasn't strong enough either. But he'd tried. Half drowned and barely conscious, and he'd come back for her. She wasn't strong enough human. Her fingers found the suppressant patch behind her ear. 3 years she'd worn it. 3 years keeping her wolf locked down, because guards couldn't be shifters, because the village needed her steady and reliable and controlled. She ripped it off. The shift roared through her like a wave breaking. Not full transformation, just enough. Strength flooding her limbs, senses sharpening, her wolf surging forward with 3 years of caged fury behind it. Mate. The word exploded through her skull, drowning out everything else. Her wolf had caught his scent in the water, tasted something in the current between them, and now it was screaming one word over and over like a siren. Mate, mate, mate. She shredded the kelp with one brutal yank, free. Swimming upward, lungs screaming. He was there, right there, reaching for her in the dark water. And her wolf, her stupid, feral, touch-starved wolf, she bit him. Her teeth sank into the curve of his neck before her human brain caught up, before she could stop 3 years of suppressed instinct from crashing through. Mine! Her wolf howled triumph as his blood bloomed across her tongue. Salt and copper and something electric that lit up every nerve she had. Claimed. They broke the surface together, gasping, panting. His hand clamped over his neck, her mouth still tingling with what she'd done. Liv slapped the suppressant patch back into place, her wolf howling protest as it was shoved back down. You... He coughed, treading water, dark eyes finding hers in the moonlight. You bit me. You're in village waters. Her voice came out rough. I'm the guard. That doesn't give you the right to bite me. You were drowning. I saved you. By biting my neck? His voice had gone cold. Dangerous. That wasn't just a bite. It was... She didn't have words. Couldn't explain the wolf, the claim, the 3 years of suppression that had shattered in 2 seconds. Don't! He cut her off, jaw tight. I felt it. I know the difference between teeth and a claim. Liv's stomach dropped. Drama, Surf called from the jet ski, where he sat watching with his head tilted. This is exactly what I mean about big boat people. No emotional regulation, no perspective. A little neck bite and suddenly it's a catastrophe. In Alaska, we call this Tuesday. The man's head whipped toward Surf. Did he just... I talk, I judge, I provide commentary. It's a package deal. You're handling this very poorly, by the way. 0 stars. Would not rescue again. This is... The man pressed harder against his neck, blood leaking through his fingers. His eyes found Liv's again, and the anger in them made her want to sink back under the water. I will sort this out. Look, Liv said, swimming toward her jet ski before her legs gave out. Your jet ski's fine. Your yacht's right there. Go back to your party and your blinding lights and scare some other village's fish away. She hauled herself up, arms shaking. You bit me, he said again, but this time it wasn't confusion. It was a promise, a threat. You're welcome for saving your life. Liv fired the engine. If you want to reimburse me for the rescue, I also stopped your jet ski from running you over, by the way. Name's Liv. Village guardhouse. You can find me. I wouldn't do that if I were you. She paused, hand on the throttle. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. Blood still seeped between his fingers, dark against his skin. Wouldn't do what? She asked. Tell me where to find you. He started swimming toward his overturned jet ski, movement stronger now, more controlled. If I were you, I'd pack tonight, leave before dawn. Is that a threat? He hauled himself onto his craft, righting it with a grunt. Water streamed off broad shoulders as he turned to look at her one last time. It's a warning, he said. What grabbed you down there wasn't kelp. The engine of his jet ski roared to life. He was gone before she could respond, cutting through the dark water toward the blazing yacht. Liv sat frozen, her ankle throbbing where something had gripped it. Liv? Surf's voice had lost all its theatrical edge. Liv, what did he mean? What grabbed you? She didn't answer. She couldn't. Because now that she thought about it, now that the adrenaline was fading and her wolf was caged again, kelp didn't grip. Kelp didn't pull. Kelp didn't wrap tighter when you struggled. Something else had been down there in the dark, something that had wanted to drag her under. And somehow the stranger from the big boat knew exactly what it was. Chapter 2. The village hall smelled like salt cod and wood smoke, the same way it had smelled every night of Liv's life since she'd washed up on these shores 12 years ago. 16 tables arranged in crooked rows. Mismatched chairs dragged from abandoned houses. A kitchen that hadn't been updated since the 70s, where 3 massive pots bubbled with whatever the day's catch had provided. Tonight it was fish stew, heavy on the potatoes, light on the fish. "We have returned," Surf announced, victorious, bearing critical intelligence. "Also, I was promised jerky." Every head in the room turned. Elder William looked up from his chess game with Grandmother Dorothy, his weathered face creasing into a smile. "There she is, our girl." "She's late," Grandmother Dorothy said, not looking up from the board. "Dinner started 20 minutes ago. My stew is getting existential." "Your stew was existential when it went into the pot," Elder William muttered. "I heard that, William. You were meant to, Dorothy." "I had to check the school one more time," Liv said. "Wanted to make sure they hadn't scattered. And?" Elder Margaret appeared at her elbow, clipboard in hand, because Elder Margaret went nowhere without her clipboard. Liv had once seen her bring it to a funeral. She'd taken notes on the eulogy, for efficiency purposes. "Grandmother Rock," Liv said. "The reef break on the eastern side, currents pushing them tight, should be perfect for morning nets." "I discovered this," Surf added, sitting primly at Liv's feet. "I did the actual work. The diving, the temperature analysis, the current mapping. As Hemingway once said, the sea is the same as it has been since before men ever went on it. I went on it. I conquered it. I would like this noted for the record." "Did you just quote Hemingway?" Liv asked. "I contain literary multitudes. The Old Man and the Sea audiobook. Narrated beautifully, very moving. I wept." "The record notes your contribution," Elder Margaret said, scribbling something on her clipboard without looking up. "And your literary pretensions. Does the record also note that I was promised beef jerky by Elder William in what I can only describe as a sacred covenant? A gentleman's agreement? A verbal contract that, I should mention, would hold up in any court of law?" Elder William chuckled, reaching into his vest pocket. "Come here, you ridiculous creature." Surf trotted over with tremendous dignity, accepted the strip of jerky like a king receiving tribute, and settled under Elder William's chair to consume it with aggressive satisfaction. "How dense is the school?" Elder Margaret asked, pen poised. "Dense," Liv said. "Surf says a week's worth, maybe more if we're careful." 16 adults, 4 children, Elder Margaret murmured, doing calculations. "That's roughly 12 pounds per day for adequate nutrition, accounting for protein requirements and—" "Margaret." Grandmother Dorothy finally looked up from her chess game. "Let the girl sit down before you audit her. Not everything needs a spreadsheet." "Everything needs a spreadsheet, Dorothy. That's how civilization functions." "Civilization functions on gossip and spite. The spreadsheets are decoration." Liv grabbed a bowl from the kitchen window, nodding thanks to Elder Patricia, who ran the evening meals with the efficiency of a general commanding troops and the mercy of a loan shark. The stew was thin but hot, and Liv's stomach reminded her she hadn't eaten since breakfast. She found a seat at the long table near the window where she could watch the door and the darkness beyond. Old habit. Hard to break. "Liv." Thomas appeared beside her, 17 years old and trying desperately to grow a beard that wasn't cooperating. The 3 hairs on his chin were putting up a valiant effort. "Is it true? About the school at Grandmother Rock?" "It's true. I can crew tomorrow," he said, straightening his shoulders like he was reporting for military duty. "I've been practicing my knots." "I know you have," Liv smiled. "You and Sarah both. You've been working hard." Thomas beamed. Then his face fell. "Did you hear about Michael?" Liv's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. "What about Michael?" "Left this morning, took the early bus to the city." Thomas stared at his own bowl. "Said he got a job at a warehouse. Said he couldn't—" He stopped. "Said he couldn't watch the village die slowly." The stew suddenly tasted like nothing. "That's 4 this month," Elder William said quietly from his chess game. "4 of our young ones." Silence fell over the hall. Even Surf stopped chewing. "So, for tomorrow," Elder Margaret said, her voice carefully steady as she consulted her clipboard, "we have Thomas and Sarah. That's 2. "Not enough for a full crew," Elder William said. "I'll go." Grandmother Pearl pushed herself up from her seat at the far table. 83 years old, hands gnarled with arthritis, but her eyes were sharp enough to cut glass. My joints can handle one more trip. Pearl, Liv started. Don't pearl me, girl. I was hauling nets when your mother was in diapers. I was hauling nets when William's mother was in diapers. She jabbed a finger at Elder William. You too, old man. Don't think I don't see you rubbing your knees when you think no one's looking. If I'm going, you're going. Sure, I don't mind going fishing, as long as I don't have to deal with fish guts, cooking, and cleaning. The tension in the room cracked. Someone laughed. Grandmother Dorothy made a joke about William being afraid of fish guts. Elder Patricia emerged from the kitchen with a second pot of stew and announced that anyone who wanted seconds had better get in line before she fed it to the gulls, or the spite cat she was still considering acquiring. Liv watched them move around each other, these stubborn, ridiculous, wonderful people who had taken in a feral teenager with no pack and no name and called her daughter, who had accepted a talking husky without blinking and treated him like he belonged. They were old, they were tired, their village was dying one departure at a time, but they were still here, still fighting, still sharing what little they had and pretending it was enough. Under the table, Surf pressed his warm weight against her ankle. You're thinking loud thoughts, he murmured around a mouthful of jerky. I can hear them from here, very melancholy, very Dostoevsky. You've read Dostoevsky? Audiobook, Crime and Punishment, 18 hours. I have opinions. Of course you do. My main opinion is that Raskolnikov needed a hobby, and possibly a husky. A good husky provides perspective. I'm thinking we're lucky, Liv said quietly. We are, Surf swallowed. Also, I'm going to need more jerky. That first piece was merely an appetizer, a palate cleanser. The main course has yet to arrive. As the French say, mise en place, everything in its place. The place for jerky is my stomach. You're ridiculous. I'm cultured. There's a difference. You're a 6-year-old dog who learned French from an audiobook. Husky, and I learned French from 3 audiobooks. I'm practically fluent. Bonjour, croissant, je ne regrette rien. Liv. The voice cut through the noise of the hall like a knife. Grandmother Pearl had crossed the room without Liv noticing. Impressive for a woman with 2 bad hips and a grudge against stairs, and was standing at the edge of the table, studying Liv with eyes that had seen too much to be fooled by anything. Something's different, Grandmother Pearl said. Liv's hand tightened on her spoon. I don't know what you mean. Don't lie to me, girl. I've known you since you were a half-drowned pup with seaweed in your hair and an attitude the size of the Pacific. Grandmother Pearl's nostrils flared. Your scent's changed. Barely. But it's there. The hall was going quiet again. Heads turning, conversations trailing off. I'm fine, Liv said. It was just a long patrol. She's lying, Surf announced from under the table. There was an incident. A dramatic incident, with a man, from a big boat. Very Shakespearean, possibly Homeric. The Odyssey has fewer nautical complications. Surf. I'm not going to lie to Grandmother Pearl, Liv. She's terrifying. She once made me return jerky I'd earned fair and square through emotional manipulation. I have trauma. It's documented. What kind of incident? Elder William asked, abandoning his chess game entirely. Grandmother Dorothy immediately moved 3 of his pieces while he wasn't looking. The kind where Liv rammed her jet ski into another jet ski because her headlight is broken. I've been telling her to fix it for weeks, by the way. Nobody listens to me. I'm basically Cassandra of Troy, except fluffier. And then there was drowning and maritime code violations, and she ripped off her suppressant patch and bit a stranger in the neck. Surf emerged from under the table, licking jerky residue from his muzzle. Also, he was very rude about the whole thing. 0 emotional regulation. 0 gratitude for being rescued. Typical big boat person. No class. Every elder in the room was staring at Liv now. You bit someone? Grandmother Dorothy asked. It was... Liv's face burned. It was an accident. She removed her suppressant, Grandmother Pearl said slowly. Her eyes had gone wide. And then she bit him. That would be a mate claim. I'm not sure. It was chaotic. Did your wolf announce she found a mate? Grandmother Dorothy asked. The elders knew too much for Liv to lie to them. She nodded. I wasn't in control. You didn't need to be, darling. When it comes to fated mates, when your wolf sees her mate, she takes charge. There's nothing you can do about it, Grandmother Pearl said. So finding a mate is a good thing, Thomas blurted. The best thing, Pearl said. The majority of us live our lives never having met a soulmate. That's okay. You can still be happy. But when you find one, you hang on with your dear life because that's the best thing that could ever happen. Grandmother Dorothy nodded. Soulmates are the most compatible relationship. It's natural. You'll fall in love without even trying. Nothing to worry about. Liv shook her head. Doesn't make sense. He was furious when he saw the bite mark. And so was I, to be honest. Grandmother Dorothy shrugged. Sometimes, if the couple are too different, the bond might take a while to settle. How different is too much? Surf asked. A billionaire who owns a yacht as big as a city block and a coast guard of a fishing village with a beaten-up jet ski she hasn't paid off. Is that too different? Or close enough? He looked around the room, blinking with hope. I'd say close enough, yeah. This is basically Pride and Prejudice. Jane Austen would approve. Love conquers class differences. It's literary canon. The door of the village hall banged open. Thomas stood in the doorway, chest heaving, face white as salt. Liv! He could barely get the words out. There's a man at the dock. He came from the yacht. He's asking for the village council. The hall went silent. He says, Thomas swallowed hard. He says he's the new owner of the harbor. He says he's here to discuss the future of our village. Liv's blood turned to ice. He says his name is Adam Blackwood, and he asked for Liv. Is that your man, Liv? Pearl asked. Liv pushed back from the table, jaw tight. That's the man I bit, but he's not my man. She grabbed her jacket from the back of her chair. And if he's here to threaten this village, he's about to find out exactly how I handle unfriendly visitors. So, not Pride and Prejudice, then, Surf said, trotting after her. More like Jaws, with romance. And I'm the wise local who warned everyone about the danger, but nobody listened. He paused at the door, glancing back at the elders. For the record, I said big boats mean big problems. I said it multiple times in several languages. Surf, Liv said. Move. Moving. But I want it noted that if this goes badly, I reserve the right to say I told you so. He squared his small shoulders. Also, if he's rude again, I'm sinking my fangs into places that'll make his wolf howl for a week. Chapter 3. Cassian pressed a towel against his neck and tried to remember the last time someone had bitten him. He couldn't, because no one had. Because he was Cassian Thorne, alpha of the Blackwater Pack, and people didn't bite him. People stepped aside when he walked. People lowered their eyes. People certainly didn't ram jet skis into him in the dark and then sink their teeth into his throat like he was a chew toy. You're brooding, Nathan said from the doorway of the yacht's medical bay. You've got that look. The one where your eyebrows do the thing. My eyebrows don't do a thing. They absolutely do a thing. They're doing it right now. Nathan crossed his arms, leaning against the doorframe with the casual ease of someone who had never been bitten by a stranger in open water. So, want to talk about it? No. Great, let's talk about it. Nathan pushed off the doorframe and dropped into the chair across from Cassian. A woman bit you, on the neck, in what I can only describe as a claiming bite, and you came back to the yacht looking like someone had personally offended your ancestors. She did personally offend my ancestors. She bit me. Right, the biting. Nathan tilted his head. Was she pretty? That's not relevant. That means yes. Nathan grinned. Was she... Cassian's phone buzzed. He checked the message and went very still. Adam is at the fishing village asking for Liv. Thought you should be aware. His voice dropped to a growl. I asked you not to tell anyone about the incident in the water. I didn't tell anyone. Then why is Adam Blackwood currently at the fishing village asking for the woman who bit me? Nathan's grin vanished. What? My people just texted. Adam arrived by speedboat 10 minutes ago. He's asking for the village council and... Cassian's jaw tightened. And someone named Liv. Nathan raised his hands. Hang on, you have your people spying on Adam? Nathan, he's trying to undercut me by going to the fishing village. Get your priorities straight. You're my brother. I didn't tell him, Nathan said. Cass, I swear. Then how does he know? Nathan ran a hand through his hair, thinking. Then his face darkened. The service staff. That new guy, Marcus. He was in the corridor when we were talking. I thought he'd gone below deck, but he heard enough. Cassian stood, the towel falling from his neck. The bite mark was still visible, 2 perfect crescents that throbbed every time he moved. And he reported it to Adam. Adam's been looking for leverage, Nathan said grimly. He's been pushing the board for months. Aggressive expansion. Tear down the fishing village, extend the harbor, build a resort complex that spans both sides of the hill. I know what he wants. Cassian moved to the window, staring at the distant village lights. I thought you assumed I agreed with him on acquiring the fishing village. Don't you? Acquiring, yes. Pushing old wolves out of their homes and bulldozing their history? No. Cassian turned. But that's not the point right now. The point is, Adam wants to establish his position with the senior council. He wants the Southern Territory, Nathan said. He wants the council to give it to him, but they've had you earmarked for it since last year. And now he sees an opening. Cassian's mind raced. Think about what he heard. From the service staff, all Adam knows is that I had some kind of encounter with a woman from the fishing village. A woman named Liv. To him, that looks like I might have already started negotiations. Made some kind of private deal. Nathan nodded slowly. So he's racing to get there first. To be the one who closes the deal on the last holdout village. His expression darkened. The village that even the previous Monaco management couldn't crack. If Adam pulls this off, he looks like the strong leader the council wants. And you look like you were too busy getting bitten to close the deal yourself. Nathan, do I need you to narrate the situation back to me? I'm thinking out loud. Think quieter. Nathan ignored him. You don't want Adam making an offer. Or worse, doing something stupid that locks them into a bad contract before you've even had a conversation. You need to stop him. How? Cassian stared at the village lights. He remembered the way her wolf had looked at him through her eyes, fierce and certain. The feel of her body against his when she'd hauled him onto her jet ski. His human body had been barely conscious. But his wolf had never been more alive. Call her, Nathan said. I don't have her number. Then find it. Contact the village council. Someone must... She doesn't even know my name. Cassian turned from the window. She told me to find her at the guardhouse. She has no idea who I am. What I am. Which means Adam is about to tell her. His version. Nathan's expression was grim. He'll paint you as the villain. The ruthless developer who wants to destroy her home. By the time you get there... I can't get there faster than his speedboat. Then don't use a boat. Nathan met his eyes. Use the bond. Cassian went still. You said it yourself. The bond isn't complete. But it's started. If you focus, if you reach through it, that's intimate. Cassian shook his head. I'd be in her head without permission. After she already bit me without permission. You want me to make this worse? I want you to make contact before Adam poisons the well. Nathan grabbed Cassian's shoulders. Listen to me. That woman, Liv, is about to hear that Cassian Thorne wants to bulldoze her village, destroy her family's livelihood, and scatter her pack to the wind. Adam will make sure of it. Then he'll make his offer. Throw them a lifeboat while he's the one drilling holes in their ship. They'll be so scared, so desperate, they might agree on the spot. Sign something they can't back out of. He tightened his grip. And by then, they won't just distrust you. They'll hate you. She already hates me. She bit me out of instinct, not affection. Instinct is a start. Hatred is a wall. Nathan let go. You can't call her. You can't outrun him. The only way to reach her first is through the bond she started. Cassian stared at his brother. His wolf stirred, eager, too eager. If I do this, Cassian said slowly, she'll feel me in her mind. She'll know I'm there. Good. Introduce yourself. Be charming. I'm not charming. Then be honest. Tell her Adam isn't speaking for you. Tell her you haven't made any decisions about the village. Tell her... Nathan paused. Tell her whatever you need to tell her to make sure she doesn't slam every door before you've had a chance to knock. Cassian closed his eyes. The bite on his neck pulsed. Warm. Alive. A thread connecting him to a woman he'd met for 5 minutes in dark water, who had crashed into his life and marked him as hers before he could say a word. He reached for the thread. And pulled. Liv pushed through the village hall doors, Surf trotting at her heels, the elders following close behind. The dock was lit by a single lamp, its yellow glow barely cutting through the darkness. A speedboat worth more than every building in the village combined was moored at the end, gleaming white and obscene against the weathered wood. And standing on the dock, examining the village like he was appraising livestock, was a man in a suit that probably cost more than her jet ski. Liv's stomach clenched and then unclenched, because it wasn't him. This man was tall, dark-haired, handsome in a sharp, polished way, but he was wrong. Wrong shoulders, wrong stance, wrong scent on the wind. Not the man from the water. Relief flooded through her, sudden and confusing. Why should she be relieved? She'd bitten a stranger. She should want to see him again, if only to live. She stumbled. The voice wasn't a voice, it was a feeling. A pulse, a warmth blooming behind her sternum and spreading outward like ink in water. Liv, I'm Cassian Thorne, the mate you claimed. Her hand flew to her chest. The bond. He was in her mind, reaching through the thread she'd started with her teeth in his neck. Don't trust him. The man on the dock. He's not speaking for me. The sensation was strange. Incomplete. Like hearing someone through a wall. She could feel his presence, his urgency, but the words came through fragmented. Distant, because he hadn't claimed her back. The bond was one-sided, a door she'd kicked open that he was now pressing against from the other side. But he was there. He hadn't rejected the bite. He was trying to reach her. I need to talk to you. Don't agree to anything, please. Liv. Grandmother Pearl's hand found her elbow. You've gone pale. What is it? That's not him, Liv managed. Her voice sounded far away. That's not the man I pulled from the water. But he knows your name, Elder William said, frowning at the figure on the dock. And he came from the yacht, which means they know each other. Liv pressed her palm harder against her chest, where the bond hummed like a second heartbeat. The man I bit, and this Adam. Know each other how? Pearl asked sharply. Friends? Business partners? Not friends. Definitely not friends. The pulse came through stronger this time, tinged with something bitter. Anger, maybe, or frustration. Not friends, Liv said slowly. I don't think they're friends. Pearl studied her face. You're feeling him right now, aren't you? Your mate. He's reaching through the bond. Liv nodded. It was the strangest sensation. Someone else's emotions brushing against the edges of her own. Urgency. Concern. And underneath it, something she couldn't quite name. Something that made her wolf sit up and pay attention. What does he want? Pearl asked. He wants me to wait. To not agree to anything. Liv looked at the man on the dock, who had spotted them now and was straightening his tie with the air of someone preparing to deliver a sales pitch. He says Adam isn't speaking for him. Interesting, Pearl murmured. A mate who warns you against his own associate. Either he's protective or there's a power struggle we don't understand. Either way, I need time, Liv's mind raced. I can't let Adam make whatever offer he's here to make, not until I understand what's happening. So we stall, Elder William said. How? Grandmother Dorothy asked. He's already seen us. We can't exactly pretend we're not home. Leave it to me, Surf said. Everyone looked down. Surf sat at Liv's feet, his expression serene. Too serene. The kind of serene that preceded chaos. Surf, Liv said carefully. What are you planning? Nothing dramatic, just a small intervention, a tactical maneuver, a strategic deployment of my considerable talents. He stood, shaking out his coat. As Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. I have studied this principle extensively. The audiobook was 17 hours. I am prepared. Surf! But he was already trotting toward the dock, tail high, stride purposeful. Good evening, distinguished visitor, Surf announced at maximum volume. Welcome to Havenbrook Fishing Village. I am Surf, Chief of Customs, Harbor Master, and Director of Visitor Relations. Adam Blackwood stopped mid-stride, staring at the husky approaching him with the confidence of a diplomat arriving at a summit. Did that dog just... Husky, Surf corrected, sitting directly in Adam's path. Alaskan, purebred, classically educated. Now, before you proceed any further, I must inform you of our village entry protocols. Section 1. All visitors must declare their intentions in writing. Do you have the proper forms? Adam's mouth opened, closed, opened again. There are no forms. No forms? Surf's ears flattened in theatrical horror. Sir, this is highly irregular. Section 2 clearly states that undocumented visitors must undergo a mandatory quarantine period of, he paused, calculating, 72 hours. For the protection of our marine ecosystem. We've had issues with invasive species, do you understand? I'm not an invasive species, that's exactly what an invasive species would say. Surf circled Adam slowly, sniffing with exaggerated suspicion. I'm detecting traces of expensive cologne, leather shoes, ambition. He sat back, shaking his head sadly. These are all red flags, sir. I'm going to need you to return to your vessel while we process your application. Application? Adam's polished composure was cracking. I didn't submit an application. Exactly the problem. No application, no forms, no prior notice. This is... Surf gasped dramatically. Wait, did you register your vessel with our harbor authority? Your harbor authority? This village doesn't have a I am the harbor authority. Surf puffed out his chest. Did you file a maritime approach declaration? Form 7-B, the one with the blue stamp? There's no such thing as... Sir, are you telling me you entered our waters without Form 7-B? Surf's voice rose to a scandalized pitch. This is a violation of Section 9 of the International Maritime Code. Subsection C, paragraph 12. I have the entire code memorized. Would you like me to recite it? I'll recite it anyway. Section 1. All vessels approaching protected fishing territories must stop. Adam held up a hand, his eye twitching. Stop. I just need to speak with your village council. I have a business proposition. Business propositions require Form 12D, the green one, filed in triplicate. Surf shook his head mournfully. I'm afraid without proper documentation, I cannot allow you to proceed. It's not personal, sir. It's bureaucracy, the great equalizer. This is ridiculous. Adam tried to step around Surf. Surf moved with him, blocking his path. Sir, I must warn you that proceeding without authorization constitutes trespassing. The penalty is, he lowered his voice ominously, severe. Severe how? Surf leaned closer, his ice-blue eyes deadly serious. Community service. You'll be assigned to net repair. For a month. The nets are very tangled, sir. Very, very tangled. Old Margaret supervises. She doesn't believe in breaks, or lunch, or mercy. Adam's eye twitched again. Alternatively, Surf continued brightly, you could return to your vessel, submit the proper paperwork through official channels, and schedule an appointment for... He pretended to consult an invisible calendar. 3 to 5 business weeks from now. We're very busy. Fishing season, you understand. I don't have 3 to 5 weeks. Then I suggest you row faster on those forms. Surf stood, shaking himself. I'll escort you back to your boat. For your safety. The dock is treacherous at night. Many splinters. Tetanus risks. Our liability insurance doesn't cover visitors without Form 7B. I didn't agree to... Wonderful. Right this way, sir. Surf began herding Adam backward toward his speedboat with the practiced ease of a sheepdog who had read extensively on psychological manipulation. Mind the gap. Watch your step. That board is loose. That one, too. Actually, most of them are loose. Budget constraints. Perhaps your business proposition could include dock repair funding, submitted on Form 15A, the yellow one. From the village hall steps, Liv watched in stunned silence as Surf maneuvered Adam Blackwood, heir to a corporate empire, investor in a Monaco harbor resort, back onto his speedboat through sheer force of bureaucratic nonsense. He's citing maritime codes that don't exist, Grandmother Dorothy said, a note of admiration in her voice. He's magnificent, Pearl murmured. Adam was now standing in his speedboat, looking deeply confused and vaguely traumatized. Surf sat at the edge of the dock, tail wagging, calling out final instructions. Don't forget Form 7B, blue stamp, very important. Also Form 12D for business propositions, and Form 23F if you plan to make eye contact with any village elders. That one requires notarization. The speedboat's engine roared to life. Safe travels, sir. Mind the wake zones. Section 4, subsection A. I'll be watching. Surf trotted back to the group, sat at Liv's feet, and began grooming his paw with studied nonchalance. That should buy you approximately 2 to 3 hours, he said calmly. Maybe more, depending on how long it takes him to realize Form 7B doesn't exist, and the website I gave them forwarded to a fertilizer company. He seemed like the type to Google it first. Very thorough, very confused. Surf, Liv managed. That was. Strategic genius, Surf suggested. Tactical brilliance? A masterclass in psychological warfare as outlined by Sun Tzu in Chapter 3 of The Art of War, specifically the passage about winning battles through deception rather than direct confrontation? I was going to say insane. Insanity and genius are neighbors, Liv. They share a fence. Sometimes they borrow sugar. Surf stood, shaking himself. Now, I believe you have a mate trying to contact you through a mystical psychic bond, a corporate conspiracy to unravel, and a village to protect. I suggest we go inside, make tea, and strategize. I'll require jerky, extensive jerky. The bureaucracy was exhausting. Pearl was laughing. Actually laughing. The first genuine laugh Liv had heard from her in months. I take back everything I said about that dog, she wheezed. Husky, Surf corrected, already heading toward the hall. And you're welcome. Now about that tea. And the jerky. The jerky is non-negotiable. I just saved the village through the power of fictional paperwork. Compensation is required. In her chest, the bond pulsed warmly. And somewhere on a yacht in the harbor, Liv could have sworn she felt Cassian Thorne laughing too. Chapter 4. The knock came at 7 in the morning. Liv knew it was 7 because she'd been staring at her ceiling for exactly 43 minutes, replaying the sensation of Cassian Thorne's voice in her mind and wondering if she'd hallucinated the entire thing. I'm the mate you claimed, that's what he'd said, through the bond, right before she'd fallen into the most restless sleep of her life. I'm the mate you claimed, not I'm your mate, not we're mates. The mate you claimed, as in, you did this, you started this, I'm just responding. The knock came again, louder. Liv! Surf's voice floated through the door. There's a man outside, tall, expensive, smells like the yacht. Should I bite him or let him in? Liv looked down at herself. Faded flannel pajamas covered in cartoon clownfish and blue tangs, a Finding Nemo set she'd bought on clearance 3 years ago because the store had mislabeled them as generic fish pajamas, and she'd gotten them for $4. She called them her fish pajamas. Surf called them a cinematic masterpiece reduced to sleepwear, and insisted she was honoring Pixar's legacy every time she wore them. Hair like a sea creature had nested in it, no bra. Tell him I'm not here. He can hear you, Liv. You just answered. Tell him I died. From what? Embarrassment. It's terminal. The door creaked open. Surf's head appeared, followed by his body, followed by Cassian Thorne. In her cabin, at 7 in the morning, while she was wearing fish pajamas. He looked, unfairly put together. Dark jeans, a sweater that probably cost more than her boat, hair slightly windswept in a way that suggested he'd walked here from the dock. The bite mark on his neck was still visible above his collar, 2 perfect crescents that made her wolf sit up and purr. Nice pajamas, Cassian said. They're Finding Nemo, Surf said from behind her, voice reverent. A modern classic, the story of a father's unwavering devotion, the ocean's vast indifference, and a fish with short-term memory loss who nonetheless perseveres. Liv doesn't appreciate the cultural significance. She calls them fish pajamas because she got them on sale. They are fish pajamas, Liv said. They have fish on them. They have Nemo on them. And Dory, show some respect. Nice lack of invitation, Liv said to Cassian, ignoring Surf entirely. Surf let me in. Surf is a traitor. Surf was promised jerky, Surf said, settling onto his bed in the corner. Bribery is a legitimate form of diplomacy. Machiavelli wrote extensively on the subject. Machiavelli didn't write about jerky. He would have if he'd had access to quality beef products. Surf circled twice and lay down. Don't mind me, I'll just be here, observing, taking mental notes for my memoir. Liv grabbed a blanket from the couch and wrapped it around herself like armor. What do you want? To talk. Cassian remained by the door, maintaining a careful distance. About last night, about the bond, about how you specifically said, I'm the mate you claimed? Liv crossed her arms over the blanket. As in, you haven't claimed me back? As in, this is a one-way street that I created without permission? Cassian's jaw tightened. I wanted to be clear about where we stand. Crystal clear. You're the victim. I'm the biter. Got it. That's not what You literally tapped into our bond to clarify that you hadn't reciprocated, while I was trying to deal with your business partner threatening my village. Liv's voice stayed level, but her wolf was pacing. Forgive me if I'm not feeling warm and fuzzy this morning. Silence stretched between them. Surf looked up from his bed. This is very tense, very dramatic. Should I leave? I feel like I should leave, but also I don't want to miss anything. Stay, Liv said. Leave, Cassian said. I'll stay, Surf decided. Majority rules. Also, this is my home too, technically. Cassian exhaled slowly. You're right. The way I phrased it was cold. I apologize. Liv blinked. She hadn't expected an apology. I haven't claimed you back, Cassian continued, because I don't know you. You don't know me. We met for 5 minutes in dark water, during which you crashed into me, I almost drowned, and you bit my neck. That's not exactly a foundation for a lifelong bond. I'm aware of the circumstances. I was there. So was I. Unconscious for most of it, but there. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Look, we both need time to figure this out. What the bond means, whether we want it, whether we can make it work. Fine, Liv said. Take all the time you need. I'll be here, protecting my village, wearing fish pajamas, living my life. Nemo pajamas, Surf corrected quietly. Fish pajamas? That's the problem. Cassian moved further into the room, and Liv's wolf tracked his every step. You might not have a village to protect if Adam gets his way. Adam, your business partner. Investor, not partner. There's a difference. Cassian stopped by her small kitchen table, looking absurdly out of place among her chipped mugs and secondhand furniture. He wants to buy the fishing village, tear it down, and extend the harbor resort over the hill. Luxury condos, private beach, the whole coastline commercialized. And what do you want? To preserve it? Cassian met her eyes. The fishing village has value beyond real estate. History, community, a way of life that's worth protecting. I want to integrate it into the resort development in a way that maintains its identity. Sustainable tourism, heritage preservation. The village becomes a feature, not a casualty. Liv stared at him. Easy to say. Hard to do, he agreed, but possible if we work together. We, as in you and me. The man who won't claim me and the woman who bit him without permission. That's the complicated part. Cassian pulled out a chair and sat, apparently deciding he was staying for a while. Adam went to the senior council last night, after your harbor master chased him off. That was me, Surf announced. I am the harbor master, self-appointed, very official. He told them I'm compromised, Cassian continued, that I've formed a secret alliance with the village, that I can't be trusted to handle this acquisition objectively. Have you? Formed a secret alliance? I'm sitting in your kitchen at 7 a.m. You tell me. Liv almost smiled. Almost. The council wants to meet, Cassian said. Tomorrow night, at the gala in town. Every senior partner, every major investor, everyone who has a say in how this deal goes down. Adam will present his vision. Bulldoze and build. I need to present an alternative. And you need me there, Liv said slowly, understanding dawning. As proof. Cassian nodded. Your wolf claimed me. That mark on my neck is evidence of a bond, even an incomplete one. If I walk into that gala with you, if they can see the claim, smell the connection, it proves I have a personal stake in this village. It's not just business, it's pack. It's family. The plan I'm proposing has weight because I'm tied to the people I'm protecting. But you haven't claimed me back. Which I'll explain. The bond is new. We're taking time to understand it, but the potential is there. Cassian leaned forward, forearms on his knees. Look, I know this isn't romantic. I know this feels like a transaction, but the alternative is Adam winning. And if Adam wins, your elders lose their homes. Your village becomes a parking lot. Everything you've protected disappears. Liv's throat tightened. I can't promise we'll fall in love, Cassian said quietly. I can't promise the bond will work, but I can promise that I'll fight for your village, that I'll work with you, not against you, that whatever happens between us personally, I won't treat this place as a commodity. Words, Liv said. Pretty words from a rich man. True. But they're all I have right now. Cassian stood, and Liv's wolf mourned the loss of his proximity. The gala is tomorrow night. Hundreds of guests, black tie, the most powerful wolves on the eastern seaboard. If you come with me, as my mate, even an unclaimed one, we have a chance. If you don't. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. What time? Liv heard herself ask. I'll send a car at 6. I don't have anything to wear to a black tie gala. I'll take care of it. I don't know how to dance or make small talk with billionaires. Or, you bit me within 5 minutes of meeting me, Cassian said, a hint of warmth entering his voice. I think you'll manage. He moved toward the door, pausing beside Surf's bed. Thank you, he said to the husky. For last night, the harbor master routine was effective. I know, Surf said. I'm considering trademarking it. Bureaucratic Warfare, a husky's guide to psychological dominance. I think there's a market. Cassian's mouth twitched. I'm sure there is. He paused at the door, glancing back at Liv one more time. His eyes dropped to the pajamas, then lifted to her face. For what it's worth, he said, the fish pajamas are cute. Nemo pajamas, Surf said. Fish pajamas, Liv said. Cassian shook his head slightly, something almost like amusement crossing his features, and then he was gone. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving Liv standing in her contested pajamas with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders and a wolf in her chest that was already howling for him to come back. Well, Surf said into the silence, that was romantic. That was a business proposition. Same thing for wolves. Historically, most pack alliances started as political arrangements. Love came later, sometimes centuries later. Surf yawned. The Romanovs, for example. The Romanovs were not wolves. You don't know that. I have theories. He stood, stretching. So, we're going to a gala with billionaires, and you need to learn how to dance, dress, and dazzle in approximately 36 hours. I'm regretting this already. Regret is for people without plans. Surf trotted toward the door. Come on, we need to mobilize the elders. This is an all-hands situation. As Winston Churchill once said, please don't quote Churchill at me right now. Fine. As Surf once said, when life gives you a gala, you weaponize your grandmothers. He paused at the door, tail wagging. Also, you should probably put on pants. The elders will want a full briefing. And as much as I appreciate the Nemo pajamas, fish pajamas. We need to present a unified front of competence. Cartoon clownfish undermine authority. It's science. The elders did not love this. The elders were terrified. And then, approximately 47 seconds later, they were thrilled. A gala, Grandmother Pearl breathed, clasping her hands together. A real society gala, with dancing, and gowns, and wolves who could destroy our village with a single vote, Liv reminded her. Details. Pearl waved a hand. The point is, our Liv is going to walk into that room on the arm of her mate. Unclaimed mate. Her future mate, and she's going to dazzle them all. Pearl's eyes were bright. This is Cinderella. This is my fair lady. This is Pretty Woman, Grandmother Dorothy suggested. Without the prostitution, Elder William added hastily. Obviously without the prostitution, William. Keep up. I'm just saying. Nobody asked what you're saying. I don't know how to dazzle anyone, Liv interrupted. I don't know how to dance. I don't know which fork to use at dinner. I don't know. That's why you have us, Pearl said firmly. 36 hours. That's enough time to teach you the basics. Dorothy was a ballroom dancer before her hip went. Margaret has 17 etiquette books she's been saving for an occasion exactly like this. 23. Elder Margaret corrected, appearing with her clipboard. I've already compiled a curriculum. Hour 1, posture and walking. Hour 2, small talk and deflection. Hour 3, wine glass holding and sipping techniques. There's a technique for holding wine glasses? Liv asked weakly. There are 7, Margaret said. We'll cover the essential 4. This is insane. This is necessary. Pearl took Liv's hand, her grip surprisingly strong. You're going to walk into that room and show them exactly who we are. Not poor, not helpless, not a piece of coastline to commercialize. You're going to show them that this village has value, that we have value, that our Liv, her voice wavered, is worth more than all their money combined. Liv's eyes stung. Also, you'll need to learn to dance, Pearl added, sniffing briskly. Dorothy, warm up your hip. We're starting with the waltz. The waltz was a disaster. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Liv, you're stepping on my foot. Your foot is in the wrong place. My foot is in the correct place. Your foot is in my place. Grandmother Dorothy, 79 years old and held together by spite and calcium supplements, was attempting to lead Liv through a basic box step in the village hall. It was not going well. You're thinking too much, Dorothy said, wincing as Liv's heel found her toe again. Dancing is about feeling. Let the music guide you. The music is Elder William humming off key. I'm setting the tempo, William called from the corner, where he was apparently serving as the orchestra. Dum 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 dum. That's not a waltz, that's a funeral march. Same time signature. Liv stepped wrong again. Dorothy yelped. Maybe we should try something simpler, Pearl suggested from the sidelines. A foxtrot? A simple sway? A simple sway is not a dance, Pearl. It's what trees do in wind. Trees are very graceful. Trees don't have to impress wolf councils. Maybe she should just wear the Nemo pajamas, William muttered. At least those have personality. Fish pajamas, Liv said automatically. I'm going to find a professional, Surf announced, already heading for the door. Someone in this village must know how to dance properly. Someone with training, someone with patience, someone who isn't held together by spite and calcium supplements. I heard that, Dorothy said. You were meant to, Dorothy. Surf disappeared into the night. He returned 20 minutes later, deeply disappointed. The only dance instructor in the village is Mr. Henderson, he reported. 84 years old. Teaches dance at the community center on Tuesdays. Perfect, Pearl said. What kind of dance? Surf's ears flattened. Chicken dance and line dancing. That's not helpful. He offered to teach Liv the electric slide. He was very enthusiastic. He said it gets the young people moving. Surf shook his head mournfully. I don't think he understood the assignment. This is hopeless, Liv said, sinking into a chair. I'm going to show up at this gala, step on everyone's feet, knock over a champagne tower, and personally guarantee that Adam wins. You will do no such thing, Pearl said sharply. We still have, she checked the clock, 31 hours. That's plenty of time. We'll figure something out. A knock at the door. Everyone froze. Thomas poked his head in. There's a man here. From the yacht. Says his name is Nathan? Liv stood slowly. Let him in. Nathan Thorne entered the village hall like a man who had been born for dramatically timed entrances. He was carrying a garment bag in one hand and a small box in the other, and his smile suggested he knew exactly how good his timing was. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nathan, Cassian's brother. He nodded at the assembled elders, the cluttered hall, the general chaos of makeover in progress. I see you've started preparations. Excellent. I'm here to help. Help how? Liv asked suspiciously. 2 things. Nathan lifted the garment bag. First, this. Cassian spent 4 hours selecting it this afternoon. I've never seen him agonize over anything that long, including hostile takeover negotiations. It's been tailored to your measurements, which he apparently memorized after carrying you onto a jet ski. He paused. That's either creepy or romantic. I haven't decided. Measurements? Liv felt her face heat. He's observant. It's annoying. Nathan laid the garment bag across the table. Try it on when I leave. I'm told it's very her, whatever that means. I assume it means you'll like it. Hopefully it doesn't have cartoon fish on it, Elder Williams said. We're trying to make a serious impression. They're not cartoon fish, they're Nemo, Surf said hotly. There's a difference. One is lazy design, the other is cinema. I don't know who Nemo is. Nemo is a clownfish who was taken from his father by divers, prompting the most emotionally devastating animated journey since Bambi's mother was shot, Surf said. I weep every time. The scene where Marlin finds Nemo in the tank? Devastating. Absolutely devastating. Nathan stared at the husky. Did your dog just give me a Pixar movie review? Husky, Surf corrected. And that wasn't a review, that was a synopsis. Reviews require critical analysis. I have many thoughts on the symbolism of the East Australian current as a metaphor for letting go, but this doesn't seem like the time. It's definitely not the time, Liv said. And the second thing? Pearl asked Nathan, steering the conversation back on track. Nathan set down the small box and opened it. A phone, sleek and new, sat inside. Direct line to Cassian, and to me in case of emergency. He pulled the phone out and handed it to Liv. Also, I've been instructed to teach you to dance. Silence. You know how to ballroom dance? Dorothy asked skeptically. I know how to do everything, madam. I'm the charming brother. Nathan shrugged off his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. Now I understand we're working with a limited time frame and a student who has, according to the husky... I texted him, Surf said, while looking for Mr. Henderson. I believe in utilizing all available resources. Stepped on her partner's feet 17 times in 20 minutes. 18, Dorothy muttered. 18, right. Nathan moved to the center of the hall and held out his hand to Liv. Come here. Let's see what we're working with. Liv approached cautiously. Nathan took her hand, placed his other at her waist, respectfully distant, and nodded to Elder William. Waltz tempo, please. Properly this time. William hummed. It still sounded like a funeral, but at least it was rhythmic. The trick, Nathan said, beginning to move, is to stop thinking about your feet. Your feet know what to do. They've been walking for years. They're experts. The problem is your brain. Your brain is panicking and sending contradictory signals. How do I stop my brain from panicking? You don't. You distract it. Nathan guided her through a turn, smooth and effortless. Tell me about the most annoying thing about my brother. What? The most annoying thing. There must be something. Everyone finds something about Cassian annoying. Liv's brain, distracted, stopped monitoring her feet. He's presumptuous, showing up at my cabin at 7 in the morning. Assuming I'd agree to his plan. Excellent. Keep going. Nathan spun her gently. What else? He's too calm. Even when he was almost drowning, even when I bit him, he just handled it, like nothing rattles him. That's the alpha training. 20 years of learning to never show weakness. It's exhausting to watch. More. He picked out a dress for me without asking what I like. What if I hate it? You won't, but I appreciate the outrage. You're dancing, by the way. Liv looked down. She was, in fact, dancing, moving in smooth circles around the hall, her feet following Nathan's lead without conscious thought. How? Distraction and muscle memory. The best dance teachers know that the enemy of grace is self-consciousness. Nathan spun her again, faster this time. Also, I'm an exceptional lead. It helps. Modest, too. Modesty is for people who aren't objectively talented. He grinned. Now let's try it again. This time I want you to think about how annoying it is that Cassian memorized your measurements. Really sit with that. Let it fuel your footwork. From the sidelines, the elders watched in amazement. He's good, Pearl murmured. He's charming, Dorothy agreed. He's not as charming as me, Surf muttered. I could teach her to dance if I had thumbs. The lack of thumbs is a significant handicap. I want this noted. Noted, Elder Margaret said, scribbling on her clipboard. For the next 2 hours, Nathan guided Liv through waltz basics, foxtrot fundamentals, and something he called the Billionaire Shuffle, a simplified step pattern for when the music was unfamiliar and the stakes were high. The key to any dance, he said as they finally stopped, both slightly out of breath, is confidence. Move like you belong there. Even if you don't know the steps, act like you invented them. Wolves respect confidence. They can smell uncertainty. And if they smell my uncertainty? Then you look them dead in the eye and ask about their investment portfolio. Nothing distracts a billionaire like talking about money. Nathan released her and stepped back. You'll be fine. Better than fine. Cassian wouldn't have chosen you if he didn't think you could handle it. Cassian didn't choose me. I bit him. It was involuntary. The bite was involuntary. Everything after that has been choice. Nathan picked up his jacket and moved toward the door. Try on the dress. Get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow at 6. He paused at the door, glancing back. For what it's worth, he said, he really did spend 4 hours picking that dress. 4 hours, for a man who usually decides hostile takeovers in 15 minutes. His smile softened. He might not have claimed you back yet, but that doesn't mean he isn't feeling something. My brother just takes time, with things that matter. Then he was gone. The hall was quiet. Well, Pearl said finally, try on the dress. Liv picked up the garment bag with trembling fingers. She moved to the small room off the main hall, a storage closet converted to a changing area, and unzipped it slowly. The dress spilled out like moonlight, silver gray, the color of morning mist over the ocean. Simple lines, elegant cut, nothing fussy or overdone. A neckline that was sophisticated without being revealing. Fabric that felt like water against her skin. It was perfect. It was exactly what she would have chosen for herself if she'd had unlimited money and impeccable taste. She put it on. It fit like it had been made for her, because in a way it had. Cassian had looked at her in Finding Nemo pajamas, which she would continue to call fish pajamas regardless of Surf's protests, wrapped in a blanket like a defensive burrito, and somehow seen exactly what she needed. Liv stared at herself in the cracked mirror. For the first time since this insane situation began, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she could do this. She stepped out of the changing room. The elders went silent. Surf's jaw dropped. Actually dropped. She didn't know dogs could do that. "Oh, child," Pearl whispered, pressing a hand to her heart. "Oh, sweet child." "Is it okay?" Liv asked, suddenly uncertain again. "Okay?" Dorothy laughed, the sound slightly wet. "You look like a queen. A warrior queen who's about to walk into enemy territory and make every single one of them regret underestimating her." "Very Wonder Woman," Surf said, recovering. "But classy. Like Wonder Woman went to finishing school and learned how to overthrow patriarchies with elegance instead of swords." He tilted his head, studying her. "Much better than fish pajamas." "Nemo pajamas," Liv said, fighting a smile. "Now she admits it," Surf huffed. "Typical. I've been fighting this battle for 3 years and she picks now to acknowledge Pixar's genius." "You look like your mother," Pearl said softly. Liv's breath caught. "I never told you." Pearl crossed to her, taking her hands. "But I knew her. A long time ago. Before. And you look just like her right now. Beautiful and fierce and ready to fight for the people she loves." Tears spilled down Liv's cheeks. "None of that," Pearl said firmly, dabbing at Liv's face with her sleeve. "You'll ruin your makeup, which we haven't done yet. Margaret, get the lipsticks. Dorothy, find the good earrings. Thomas, heat up some soup. The girl needs energy." "What about me?" Surf asked. "You," Pearl said, "are going to practice being a well-behaved companion for tomorrow night. I am always well-behaved. You threatened a billionaire with fictional paperwork. That was well-behaved by my standards." Surf sat up straighter. "Fine, I'll practice sitting quietly and judging silently. It's what Tolstoy would have wanted." "Tolstoy never mentioned huskies. He mentioned wolves. I'm wolf-adjacent, close enough." Pearl shook her head, fighting a smile, and turned back to Liv. "Tomorrow," she said, "you're going to walk into that gala and show them what this village is made of. And if anyone gives you trouble," her eyes glinted, "you step on their feet. Accidentally, repeatedly, until they learn respect." Liv laughed, the sound watery but real. Tomorrow she would face a room full of billionaires, a mate who hadn't claimed her, and an enemy who wanted to destroy everything she loved. But tonight, surrounded by elders who had raised her, and a husky who quoted dead philosophers and defended animated fish with equal passion, she almost believed she could win. Chapter 5. The Grand Harbor Ballroom could hold 400 wolves in formal attire. Tonight it held exactly 372. Cassian knew because he'd counted. Twice. It was either that or think about the woman who would walk through those doors any minute now, wearing a dress he'd spent 4 hours choosing and probably hating him for the presumption. "You're brooding again," Nathan murmured beside him. "The eyebrows are doing the thing." "My eyebrows don't." "They absolutely do. Stop it. You're supposed to look confident, not constipated." Cassian forced his face into something resembling neutrality and surveyed the room. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting fractured light across marble floors. Wolves in tuxedos and gowns circulated with champagne flutes, their laughter carefully modulated, their conversations strategically positioned. The string quartet played something classical and forgettable. The catering staff moved like ghosts, refilling glasses, clearing plates, pretending not to hear anything. It was, by all accounts, a spectacular gala. It was also a battlefield, and Cassian was losing. He could feel it in the glances that slid past him, in the conversations that quieted when he approached, in the way the senior council members clustered around Adam Blackwood like moths around a flame, nodding at whatever poison he was pouring into their ears. "Sustainable development," Elder Harrington was saying, loud enough for Cassian to hear. "A noble sentiment, but sentiment doesn't fill pack coffers, does it?" "Indeed not," Adam agreed smoothly. He looked immaculate tonight, tailored tuxedo, silver cufflinks, smile sharp enough to cut glass. The fishing village represents prime coastal real estate. Sentimental preservation is a luxury we can't afford. Not when the alternative is a resort expansion that would triple our regional revenue. "Triple," Elder Marchetti repeated, eyes gleaming. "Conservatively, the projections show—" Cassian stopped listening. He'd heard Adam's projections. He'd seen the spreadsheets, the models, the carefully constructed arguments for why bulldozing a community was actually good business. Adam was compelling. Adam was confident. Adam promised power and profit and the kind of aggressive expansion that made wolves' blood sing. Cassian promised sustainability, heritage preservation, long-term thinking. Wolves didn't care about long-term thinking. Wolves cared about dominance, about territory, about winning. And right now, Adam looked like a winner. "The council's leaning his way," Nathan said quietly. "I've been working the room. Marchetti's a lost cause. Adam's been funding his grandson's business ventures for years. Harrington's skeptical but persuadable. Chen and Volkov are undecided. They want to see proof that your plan isn't just idealism dressed up in pretty language. It's not idealism, it's strategy. I know that, you know that, but they see a young alpha talking about preserving community identity, while Adam talks about market dominance. Which message do you think resonates more with wolves who built their fortunes on conquest?" Cassian's jaw tightened. He'd known this would be difficult. He'd prepared for skepticism, for resistance, for having to fight for every inch of support. But standing here watching Adam charm the council with promises of destruction, watching them nod along like the village was already rubble, the ballroom doors opened, and Cassian forgot how to breathe. She stood in the entrance like she'd been born there. Silver-gray dress flowing like water, catching the chandelier light and throwing it back in soft waves. Hair swept up, exposing the elegant line of her neck. Shoulders back, chin raised, eyes scanning the room with the watchful intensity of a woman who had spent her life guarding coastlines. Liv. His mate. "The mate you claimed," his wolf reminded him, stirring with sudden fierce attention. "Ours. She's ours." And beside her, sitting with improbable dignity in a tiny black bow tie, was Surf. The husky surveyed the ballroom with the air of a food critic entering a restaurant he fully expected to disappoint him. His ice-blue eyes moved from wolf to wolf, assessing, cataloging, almost certainly composing scathing internal commentary. "Is that dog wearing a bow tie?" someone whispered. "Husky," Surf said, loud enough to carry. "And this bow tie is Tom Ford, custom-fitted. I have standards." A ripple of confused murmurs spread through the crowd. Liv's eyes found Cassian's across the room. Something electric passed between them. The bond, still incomplete, still one-sided, pulsed with sudden warmth. He felt her nervousness underneath the composure, her determination underneath the grace, her fierce, stubborn hope that this insane plan might actually work. She was terrified. She came anyway. For her village, for her elders, for the stubborn, ridiculous family that had raised her. Cassian's wolf pressed against his chest, demanding he go to her, claim her, complete what she'd started in the water, make her his in front of every wolf in this room. Not yet, he told himself. The plan is to explain why he has not yet claimed her during the presentation. Strategic timing. Maximum impact. But watching her walk toward him, head high, spine straight, wearing a dress he'd chosen, and making it look like armor, strategy felt very far away. "Breathe," Nathan murmured. "You look like you've been hit by a truck." "I feel like I've been hit by a truck." "Good. Channel that into something useful. She's almost here." Liv stopped in front of him. Up close, he could see the slight tremor in her hands, quickly hidden, the rapid pulse at her throat, the way her wolf looked out through her eyes, assessing him with the same fierce intensity her human side was trying to hide. "You came," he said. "I said I would." "You look." He searched for a word that didn't sound inadequate. Beautiful was too simple. Stunning was too common. She looked like the ocean at dawn, powerful and mysterious and impossible to look away from. "She looks like a woman who's about to save a village through the power of formal wear and righteous determination," Surf supplied. "Also, she only stepped on my paw twice during the walk from the car. Significant improvement from rehearsal." "You weren't supposed to mention rehearsal," Liv said. "I'm providing context. The council should know you've prepared. Preparation indicates commitment. Commitment indicates reliability. I'm helping." "You're embarrassing me." "I'm building your narrative. There's a difference." Surf sat straighter, adjusting his bow tie with one paw. "Now I believe there's supposed to be dancing. I've read extensively on gala protocols. Dancing establishes social cohesion and provides opportunities for strategic conversation. Also, it looks nice." The string quartet shifted into a waltz. Cassian held out his hand. "May I?" Liv hesitated. Just for a moment. Then she placed her hand in his, and his wolf howled with satisfaction at the contact. Ours, finally touching what's ours. He led her onto the dance floor. The other couples parted to make room, some out of respect, some out of curiosity, all of them watching. Cassian could feel the weight of their attention like a physical pressure. The senior council was watching. Adam was watching. Every wolf in this room was watching to see if the rumors were true. If Cassian Thorne had really been claimed by a village girl. If he was really compromised. If he was really weak. He pulled Liv into position, one hand at her waist, the other holding hers, and began to move. "They're all staring," Liv murmured. "Let them. Easy for you to say. You belong here. I tolerate here. There's a difference." He guided her through a turn, and she followed smoothly. Nathan's lessons had worked. "You, on the other hand, look like you were born for this room." "I was born in the ocean, according to Grandmother Pearl." "Then the ocean raised you well." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "That might be the nicest thing you've said to me. I'm not nice. I've noticed. I'm strategic, calculated. I make decisions based on logic and long-term benefit." He spun her, pulling her slightly closer on the return. "Choosing your dress based on what would complement your eyes while maintaining practical movement range? Strategic. Memorizing your measurements? Efficient data collection." "You memorized my measurements while I was wearing Finding Nemo pajamas and wrapped in a blanket." "I'm observant. You're strange. I prefer thorough." They moved together through the music, and Cassian felt something shifting in his chest. Not the bond, though that pulsed steadily, warm and insistent. Something else. Something he'd been trying very hard not to feel since the moment she'd crashed into his life. He'd felt it in the water, when she'd hauled him onto her jet ski, salt water streaming from her hair, barking orders at a husky like it was the most natural thing in the world. When she'd ripped off her suppressant without hesitation, unleashing her wolf to save herself. When she'd bitten him, teeth sinking into his neck, wolf claiming what it wanted before her human mind could intervene. He'd felt it then. This pull, this gravity, this sense that the universe had shifted slightly to accommodate her presence in it. He'd told himself it was the bond, instinct, biology. But watching her now, dancing in a room full of wolves who wanted her village destroyed, facing down centuries of pack politics with nothing but borrowed etiquette lessons and stubborn courage, it wasn't just the bond. It was her. Her beauty, yes, she was beautiful. But he'd met beautiful women before. He'd danced with heiresses and executives and daughters of powerful alphas, women groomed from birth for exactly this kind of event. None of them had looked at him like Liv looked at him, like she was trying to figure out if he was worth trusting. Like she hadn't already decided he was the enemy, but she hadn't decided he wasn't either. Like she was giving him exactly one chance to prove himself. Her heart. The way she'd talked about her village, her elders, the found family who had raised her. She wasn't here for power or status or any of the things that motivated the wolves circling this room. She was here because people she loved were in danger, and she would walk into enemy territory in a borrowed dress and fight for them anyway. Her courage. God, her courage. She was terrified. He could feel it through the bond, could see it in the micro-tensions of her body, but she kept moving, kept dancing, kept her chin up and her spine straight while hundreds of predators watched and judged and waited for her to falter. She humbled him. He'd spent his life learning to be strong, to be dominant, to never show weakness, never admit uncertainty, never let anyone see him sweat. It was how alphas survived, how they led. But Liv stood in front of wolves who could destroy everything she loved, and she didn't pretend to be unafraid. She was afraid, and she came anyway. That was a different kind of strength. A better kind, maybe. "Claim her!" his wolf demanded. "Stop waiting. Stop strategizing. She's ours. Make it official." The plan was to claim her after the presentation. But looking at her now, moving in his arms, trusting him to lead, even though he hadn't earned it, strategy could go to hell. "Liv." She looked up, and their eyes met, and the rest of the ballroom faded. "There's something I need to—" "Well, isn't this touching?" Adam's voice cut through the music like a knife. The string quartet stuttered, confused. Couples around them slowed, stopped, turned to watch. Adam stood at the edge of the dance floor, champagne glass in hand, smile sharp and cold. "The mighty Cassian Thorne," he continued, pitching his voice to Carrie, "dancing with his—" What should we call her? Not his mate, certainly. She claimed him, but he hasn't claimed her back. That's not a bond, that's a liability. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Adam!" Cassian's voice was steady, but his wolf was snarling. "This isn't the time. On the contrary, I think it's exactly the time." Adam strolled closer, every step calculated for maximum dramatic effect. "The senior council is here. The major investors are here. Everyone who matters is watching you dance with a woman you won't commit to. What message does that send? It sends the message that I respect her autonomy. It sends the message that you're weak." Adam turned to address the watching crowd. He talks about sustainable development, heritage preservation, protecting community identity. But he can't even complete a mate bond. How is he supposed to protect pack interests when he won't protect his own? Liv stiffened in Cassian's arms. "You don't have to respond to this," she murmured. "No," Cassian said. "I don't." But he wanted to. God, he wanted to. Not because Adam was attacking him. He could handle attacks. But because Adam was using her, turning their incomplete bond into a weapon, making her a symbol of Cassian's weakness instead of what she actually was. The strongest person in this room. "Claim her," his wolf growled. "Now, show them. The plan, the timing, the strategy." None of it mattered. "You're right," Cassian said, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "I haven't claimed her back." Adam's smile widened. "Finally, some honesty. I haven't claimed her back because I wanted to do it properly, privately, without an audience of wolves who think romance is a transaction." The smile flickered. "But since you've forced the issue—" Cassian turned to Liv, taking both her hands in his. "Since you've decided to make our bond a public spectacle—" "Cassian," Liv breathed. Her eyes were wide. uncertain. "I was going to wait," he said, quietly enough that only she could hear. "I had a plan. It involved fewer witnesses and more dignity. But Adam's right about one thing. I've been a coward, hiding behind strategy when what I should have done was this." He raised his voice, addressing the room while keeping his eyes on her. "I, Cassian Thorne, Alpha of the Blackwater Pack, accept the claim of Livia of the Havenbrook Village." He lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. "And I offer my claim in return, if she'll have me." The ballroom held its breath. Liv stared at him. He could feel her emotions through the bond. Shock, confusion, hope, fear, all of them tangled together in a knot that matched his own. "This wasn't the plan," she whispered. "I know. You barely know me. I know enough. I crashed into you and bit you without permission. Best thing that's ever happened to me." He meant it. Somehow, impossibly, he meant it. "Say yes, Liv, or say no. It's your choice. But don't say no because you think I'm doing this for the audience. I'm not. I'm doing this because," he swallowed, "because you humbled me. Because you're brave in ways I've forgotten how to be. Because I've been falling for you since you hauled me onto that jet ski in your salt-stained clothes and told your husky to keep an eye on me." "Noted," Liv said, not looking away from Cassian. Her eyes were bright, wet. "Say yes," he said again. She took a breath. "Yes." He moved before the word finished leaving her lips. One hand cupped the back of her neck, tilting her head, exposing the elegant line of her throat. His wolf surged forward, eager, desperate, finally getting what it had wanted since the moment her teeth had pierced his skin. He bit. Gently, carefully, not hard enough to hurt, but hard enough to mark. His teeth pressed into the soft skin where her neck met her shoulder, and he felt the bond snap into place, no longer one-sided, no longer incomplete. A bridge between them, a door swinging open in both directions. Liv gasped, her fingers clutching his jacket. Through the bond he felt her, not just her emotions, but her, the fierce protectiveness that drove everything she did. The loneliness she'd carried since washing up on that shore 12 years ago. The love she felt for her elders, her village, her ridiculous husky. The hope, fragile but growing, that maybe this would work. That maybe he was worth trusting. He lifted his head, meeting her eyes. "There," he said softly. "Official." The ballroom erupted. Some wolves applauded. Some murmured in shock. The senior council exchanged loaded glances, recalculating the political landscape. And Adam looked like he'd swallowed something sour. "Very romantic," he said, and his voice had lost its smooth edge. "But acclaiming doesn't change the facts. A village girl is still a village girl. A failing fishing community is still a failing fishing community. Pretty gestures don't translate to profit margins." "No," Cassian agreed, turning to face him but keeping Liv's hand in his. "They don't. So what exactly is your plan, Thorne? Wave around a mate bond and expect the council to ignore basic economics? My plan is to show the council that the Havenbrook Village isn't a liability to be eliminated. It's an asset to be developed." Cassian looked at the watching elders, Harrington, Marchetti, Chen, Volkov, all of them calculating, all of them waiting. The fishing village has something no resort can replicate: authenticity, history, a living community with traditions that predate our pack by generations. Tourists don't just want luxury, they want experiences, stories, connection to something real. "Pretty words," Adam said. "No substance." "Then let us show you substance." Everyone turned. Surf had stepped forward, his tiny bow tie slightly askew, his ice-blue eyes fixed on the senior council with an intensity that seemed entirely too intelligent for a dog. "Surf's plans are insane, but they work." "This is absurd," Adam said. "The council isn't going to traipse down to some fishing village in formal wear to watch a dog." "Husky," half the room corrected. "To watch a husky play in the water." "I think," Elder Chen said slowly, "that I'd very much like to see what the husky has planned." Elder Volkov nodded. "I haven't seen night fishing since I was a boy. My grandfather used to take me. Said the fish danced under the moonlight. His eyes had gone distant, nostalgic. I thought he was being poetic. He wasn't, Surf said. Fish are remarkably responsive to lunar cycles. It's science, also poetry. The two aren't mutually exclusive. Elder Harrington looked at his fellow council members, then at Adam, then at Surf. Very well, he said. Let's see this demonstration. But if this is a waste of our time, it won't be, Surf said. I stake my reputation on it. You're a dog. I'm a husky with a Tom Ford bow tie and a comprehensive understanding of marine biology, classical literature, and psychological manipulation. Surf stood, shaking himself. My reputation is considerable. Now, shall we? The convoy to Havenbrook Village was unlike anything the coastal road had ever seen. Limousines and town cars wound down the narrow path, their headlights cutting through the darkness, their passengers in tuxedos and gowns peering out windows at the moonlit sea. The string quartet had been left behind at the ballroom, but someone had brought a portable speaker, and soft music drifted from one of the vehicles. Cassian rode with Nathan, Liv, and Surf in the lead car. When did you organize this? Liv asked Surf, her voice caught between awe and exasperation. The elders, the boats. I sent Thomas ahead during the dancing, Surf said calmly. He's been coordinating with Elder William and Grandmother Pearl. The fishing boats are already in position. The village knows what to do. But how did you know we'd need a demonstration tonight? Adam could have waited until tomorrow to challenge us. Adam is predictable. Aggressive personalities always strike at perceived moments of weakness. You and Cassian dancing together, clearly bonded but not yet claimed, that was his moment. I planned accordingly. Surf groomed his paw. Sun Tzu wrote extensively on anticipating enemy movements. I've internalized his principles. You planned my romantic crisis as a strategic opportunity? I planned for multiple contingencies. Your romantic crisis simply activated the optimal scenario. Surf looked up at her, something almost soft in his ice-blue eyes. I also knew you'd rise to the occasion. You always do. Liv's throat worked. I'm choosing to be touched by that, she said finally, even though it's manipulative. All good strategy is manipulative. That's what makes it strategy. The cars pulled up to the village, and Cassian stepped out into the salt-tinged air. The beach was transformed. Torches lined the shore, their flames dancing in the night breeze. The fishing boats, 3 weathered vessels that had seen better decades, were anchored in a loose formation just beyond the breakers, their lanterns glowing like earthbound stars. On the dock, the village elders stood in their finest clothes, backs straight, faces proud. And waiting on the sand, her silver dress catching the torchlight like captured moonlight, was Grandmother Pearl. Welcome to Havenbrook Village, she said, her voice carrying across the beach with surprising strength. We know you came expecting champagne and canapes. Instead, we offer you something money can't buy, a glimpse of who we are. The council members emerged from their vehicles, expensive shoes sinking into the sand, expressions ranging from curious to skeptical. Adam hung back, arms crossed, radiating disdain. The moon is at its peak, Pearl continued. The tide is perfect, and my granddaughter, she looked at Liv with fierce pride, is about to show you why this village has survived for 200 years when bigger, richer communities have crumbled. Liv moved toward the water's edge, still in her gala dress, and Cassian's heart clenched. She can't go out there in that, he said to Nathan. The dress, the heels. Watch, Nathan said quietly. Liv kicked off her heels at the waterline. She reached back, did something to the dress's fastenings, and it transformed, the flowing skirt separating into panels that she tucked and secured, turning the elegant gown into something almost practical. A dress designed for a woman who might need to move. I had it modified, Surf said, appearing at Cassian's elbow. After Cassian sent it over, I know a tailor, very discreet, very fast, very good with waterproof alterations. You modified the dress I spent 4 hours choosing? I improved it. The original was beautiful but impractical. Now it's beautiful and functional. You're welcome. Liv waded into the shallows, where her jet ski waited. She mounted it with the easy grace of someone who'd done it 1,000 times before. And beside the jet ski, floating in the gentle waves, was a surfboard. Surf trotted past Cassian, past the torches, past the murmuring council members, and leaped onto the board with perfect balance. A rope connected the board to the back of Liv's jet ski. "You're going to tow him?" Elder Chen asked, sounding fascinated. "Surf prefers to make an entrance," Liv called back. "He says it's about presentation." "Presentation is everything," Surf confirmed, settling into position on the board. As Oscar Wilde once said, one should either be a work of art or wear a work of art. I intend to be both. Liv gunned the engine. The jet ski shot forward, the surfboard skimming behind it, and Surf rode the waves like he'd been born on the water, which Cassian supposed he essentially had. The husky's silhouette cut through the moonlight, bow tie streaming, ears flat against his head, every line of his body expressing pure, focused joy. "He's magnificent," Nathan breathed. "He's ridiculous," Cassian said. "Those aren't mutually exclusive." The jet ski curved in a wide arc, heading toward deeper water where the fishing boats waited. Cassian could see the elders on deck, William, Dorothy, Margaret, Patricia, all of them watching Liv approach with expressions of absolute trust. Then Liv killed the engine. In the sudden silence, the only sounds were waves and wind and the distant crackle of torches. Surf stood on his surfboard, perfectly balanced, perfectly still. And then he dove. He hit the water with barely a splash, disappearing beneath the moonlit surface. For a long moment, nothing happened. The council members shifted, murmured, exchanged skeptical glances. Then the sea began to glow. It started as a shimmer, bioluminescence, Cassian realized, disturbed by movement beneath the surface. Blue-green light rippled outward from where Surf had disappeared, spreading like rings from a dropped stone. And then the fish rose, thousands of them, tens of thousands, silver bodies catching the moonlight from above and the bioluminescence from below, transforming the ocean into a living constellation. They moved in perfect synchronization, following patterns that seemed impossible, spirals and waves and shapes that looked almost like letters, almost like words. Surf surfaced in the center of it all, swimming in tight circles, and the fish followed him like he was conducting a symphony. On the beach, Elder Harrington made a sound that might have been a sob. "My grandfather," he said hoarsely. "He told me stories about wolves who could speak to the sea, about fish that danced under the full moon. I thought they were fairy tales." The fish leaped, not randomly, in sequence, wave after wave of silver bodies arcing through the air, catching the light, crashing back into the glowing water in cascades of luminescent spray. The fishing boats moved in response, their lanterns tracing patterns that complemented the fish's movements, a choreography that spoke of generations of practice. And at the center of it all, Liv drove her jet ski in slow, sweeping curves, herding the edges of the school, working in perfect harmony with Surf and the boats and the sea itself. Nathan was crying. Actual tears streaming down his face, reflecting the bioluminescent glow. "I want to adopt him," Nathan said thickly. "The husky. I want to adopt him and give him everything he wants and listen to him quote philosophers forever." "He's taken," Cassian said. But his voice was rough too. Because this was what Liv had been protecting. Not just a village, not just buildings and boats and a stretch of coastline. This relationship between wolf and sea, between community and nature, between past and present. This was heritage. This was history. This was everything Adam wanted to pave over for luxury condos and infinity pools. The fish formed one final shape, a crescent, like a bow, like an offering, and then scattered into the depths, taking the bioluminescence with them. The sea went dark and quiet, and for a moment no one breathed. Then Elder Volkov started to applaud. The rest of the council joined him. Even Elder Marchetti, Adam's bought ally, was clapping, tears on his weathered cheeks. Adam stood alone, not applauding, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. "This proves nothing," he said, but his voice was thin. "A light show doesn't translate to revenue." "Shut up, Adam," Elder Harrington said quietly. And there was something in his tone, a finality, that made Adam's mouth snap closed. Out on the water, Liv circled back toward shore. Surf had climbed onto his surfboard again, letting her tow him in, and even from the beach, Cassian could see the exhaustion in her posture. She'd been running on adrenaline and determination for hours. The gala, the claiming, and now this. But she was smiling. As the jet ski approached the shallows, Liv cut the engine and stood. She stood on the seat of her jet ski, barefoot, her modified dress clinging to her legs, salt water glittering in her hair. The moonlight caught her face, illuminated the fierce pride in her expression, and she raised one hand in a wave toward the shore, toward the elders who had raised her, toward the council who held her village's fate, toward him. Her eyes found Cassian's across the water, and the bond, their bond, completed now, whole, sang between them. He felt her exhaustion, her triumph, her fierce, overwhelming love for the ridiculous family she'd found on this shore 12 years ago. But underneath it all, he felt something else, something new. She loved him, not because of the claiming, not because of the bond, but because he'd shown up at her cabin in fish pajamas morning and offered to fight for her village, because he'd thrown away his strategic plan to claim her publicly when Adam used her as a weapon, because he'd stood on this beach and watched her world through her eyes and understood, finally, why it was worth saving. She loved him, and God help him, he loved her too. Their wolves hummed in harmony, two halves of something that had been waiting to be whole. Liv's smile widened. And then something wrapped around her ankle and yanked her into the sea. One moment she was there, standing, smiling, radiant in the moonlight. The next she was gone. The water swallowed her so fast she didn't even have time to scream. Just a splash, a glimpse of silver dress disappearing beneath the surface, and then nothing. Cassian's heart stopped. The beach erupted in chaos, council members shouting, elders screaming, Nathan grabbing his arm. But Cassian couldn't hear any of it. The bond. The bond was still there, but muffled now, fading. Like she was being dragged somewhere the connection couldn't follow. He felt her terror, her shock, and then, worse than anything, her silence. "Liv!" The scream tore from his throat, raw and broken, and he was running before he knew he'd moved. Into the water, toward the place where she'd disappeared, toward the empty jet ski rocking in the waves. But the sea was dark. The sea was quiet, and Liv was gone. Chapter 7. The water closed over Liv's head like a fist. Down. She was being pulled down, faster than gravity, faster than thought. The tentacle around her ankle was slick and cold and wrong, not kelp, not seaweed, something alive and deliberate and hungry. She kicked, clawed at the water, tried to twist free. The grip only tightened. Above her, the surface receded, a shrinking circle of moonlight, getting smaller, fainter, further away with every heartbeat. The bioluminescence was gone. The fish were gone. There was only darkness and pressure, and the terrible, unstoppable force dragging her into the deep. Through the bond, she felt Cassian's panic. Raw, ragged, a howl of terror that echoed through their connection like a physical blow. He was screaming her name. She couldn't hear it, but she felt it. Felt his voice tearing through their bond as he searched the empty water for any sign of her. "I'm here," she tried to send. "I'm here, I'm here, I'm—" But the bond was muffled now, fading. Like trying to shout through cotton, through stone, through miles of black water. Her lungs burned. She had seconds, maybe less. "This is how I die," she thought. "Drowned by a tentacle monster on the best night of my life. Surf is going to be so disappointed. He'll probably write a tragic audiobook about it." The thought was absurd enough to almost make her laugh. Almost. And then, in the darkness, she remembered. "Breathe, little fish." Her father's voice, warm and deep, wrapping around her like a blanket. She was 4 years old, maybe 5, floating in the shallows of a beach she couldn't name. "I can't breathe underwater, Papa. I'm not a fish." "No." He smiled, and his eyes held secrets she was too young to understand. "You're something better, something special. One day you'll understand." "When?" "When you need to." He lifted her, spinning her through the spray, and she shrieked with laughter. "When you need to, little fish, you'll remember. The water is your friend. It will never hurt you. Promise me you'll remember." "I promise, Papa." "Good girl. My brave, special girl." The memory faded, but another rose to take its place. Arms around her, soft, warm, a scent like sea roses and moonlight, a voice singing, low, sweet, in a language she didn't understand but somehow knew. My darling, my little wave, the sea will always protect you, even when I cannot, even when the darkness comes.
Mama, remember how to breathe, my love.
Remember what you are. What am I, Mama? You are the best of both worlds, land and sea, wolf and wave. And one day, a kiss on her forehead, gentle as tide foam, one day you will understand. Liv's lungs screamed for air. The surface was gone now, nothing but darkness above and below. The tentacle pulled her deeper, toward something she couldn't see but could feel, a presence, ancient and malevolent, waiting in the depths. Remember how to breathe. She was going to die. Remember what you are. She had no air left. The water is your friend. And then she breathed. Not gasped, not choked, breathed. The water flowed into her lungs, and instead of drowning, instead of death, she felt relief, like she'd been holding her breath her entire life, and finally remembered how to let go. The darkness didn't seem so dark anymore. Her eyes adjusted, changed, and she could see the tentacle wrapped around her ankle, pulsing with sick purple light, could see the shape in the depths, the thing that had been hunting her, a mass of shadow and malice with too many limbs and not enough face. A sea witch, old magic, dark magic, the kind her village elders whispered about when they thought she wasn't listening. The thing that had grabbed her in the water 3 nights ago, the thing Cassian had warned her about. It had been hunting her all along. Through the bond, clearer now somehow, as if breathing had strengthened their connection, she felt Cassian diving, coming for her, plunging into the black water without hesitation, without a plan, with nothing but desperation and love and a knife he must have grabbed from someone on the beach. "Don't," she tried to send. "It's too deep. You'll drown, please." But he was already there. A blur of movement in the darkness, the flash of a blade, and then Cassian was beside her, hacking at the tentacle with savage precision, his face twisted with fury and terror and something else, something that looked like relief, the tentacle severed. Black blood clouded the water, and the sea witch screamed, a sound that wasn't sound, a vibration that rattled Liv's bones and made her teeth ache. It rose from the depths, massive, horrifying, a nightmare given form, all writhing limbs and empty eyes and a mouth that seemed to go on forever. It reached for Cassian, and Liv saw him running out of air, his movements slowing, his face going pale, bubbles escaping from his lips. He was drowning. He had come to save her, and now he was drowning. The sea witch's limbs wrapped around him, pulling him toward that endless mouth, and Cassian, stubborn, impossible Cassian, didn't drop the knife. He raised it, drew back his arm, and plunged it into the witch's heart. The scream this time was different. Dying. The creature convulsed, its grip loosening, its form starting to dissolve into the black blood that was already dispersing in the current. But Cassian wasn't moving. His eyes were closing, his body going limp. The knife drifted from his fingers, spinning slowly toward the depths. Liv swam to him. She grabbed his face, tilted his head back, pressed her mouth to his, and breathed. Not a kiss, though it felt like one. Something deeper. She pushed air into his lungs, air she didn't know she had, air that came from somewhere inside her that had always been there, waiting. His eyes flew open. Through the bond, she felt his shock, his confusion, his overwhelming gratitude, and his love. How he sent. I don't know. I'll explain later, if I can. You're breathing underwater. Apparently, that's unexpected, says the man who just stabbed a sea witch with a dinner knife. It was a hunting knife. I grabbed it from Elder Volkov. He keeps one in his boot. Of course he does. The water around them was beginning to lighten. Not dawn. They were too deep for dawn. Something else. Something that glowed with a soft, silver radiance rising from below. Or rather, someone. She was beautiful. That was Liv's first coherent thought. The woman rising toward them was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Silver hair flowing like seaweed in a current, skin that shimmered between scales and flesh, eyes the exact same shade of gray as Liv's own, eyes that held centuries of sorrow and love and fierce protective determination. "My daughter," the woman said, and her voice was the sound of waves on shore, of rain on water, of every lullaby Liv had ever half remembered. "My brave, beautiful girl, I've waited so long." Liv's heart stopped. "Mama, come." The woman reached for them both, Liv and Cassian, and her touch was cool and gentle and impossibly strong. "We don't have much time. The witch is dead, but others will come. I need to get you to safety." She pulled them upward. Not swimming. Something faster, something that bent the laws of physics. The water parted for her like a curtain, and within seconds they were breaking the surface, gasping, Cassian, and blinking, Liv, in the sudden brightness of moonlight. A rock jutted from the water nearby, small, barely large enough for two people. The woman deposited them on it with the ease of someone setting down packages. "You can breathe air," the woman said to Liv, almost apologetically. "The water breathing is optional. A gift from my side. You'll learn to control it." "Your side." Liv's voice came out hoarse, raw. "You're my mother." "Yes." "You're alive." "Yes." The woman's face flickered with pain. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't tell you. Couldn't come to you. The danger was too great." "What danger? What?" Liv's head was spinning. Too much information, too fast, after too much trauma. "What are you?" "I'm a Selkie." Her mother smiled, and it was like watching the moon rise. "Your father was an alpha wolf, a good man, a brave man. He loved me despite what I was, and I loved him despite knowing what it would cost us both." "Cost you how?" "I hunt dark magic." Her mother's eyes went hard. "It's my calling, my duty. The seas are full of things like the witch that attacked you, creatures of shadow and malice, drawn to power they can corrupt. I've spent my life destroying them. But as long as I stayed on land, as long as I stayed with your father and you, I put you both at risk. They would have found you, used you against me." "So you left?" Liv's voice was flat. "I left to protect you. I took a position as guardian to the goddess of the sea, so I could hunt without leading them back to you. I can never return to land, never see your father again." Her voice broke. "Never hold my daughter except in stolen moments like this one." "Then why did that thing attack me?" "Because dark magic is persistent, vengeful. I've killed hundreds of them, but some always survive. They've been searching for you since you were born, a half-Selkie child with power they could corrupt. The witch tonight was the last of them, the last one who knew about you." Her mother reached out, cupping Liv's face in her hands. "You're safe now. Truly safe for the first time in your life. The seas are clean, the hunt is over." Tears slipped down her shimmering cheeks. "I only wish I could stay with you." "Then stay." "I can't. The goddess's protection requires my presence in the depths. If I leave, the darkness will return. The cycle will begin again." She pressed her forehead to Liv's. "But I can watch over you from afar. I can send you dreams, and I can give you my blessing, if your mate will accept you as you are." Both women turned to Cassian. He was sitting on the rock, dripping wet, still slightly blue around the lips from his near drowning. He looked like a man who had recently been dragged into the ocean, attacked by a sea witch, stabbed said witch with a borrowed knife, nearly died, been resuscitated by his mate, and then introduced to his mother-in-law. Which, to be fair, was exactly what had happened. "Accept her?" Cassian's voice was rough. "As what? Half-Selkie? I just watched her breathe underwater and transfer air directly into my lungs. That's the most impressive thing anyone has ever done for me. Why would I not accept her? She'll always be drawn to the sea. Part of her will always belong to the water. You're a wolf, a creature of land. The difference may become difficult." Cassian looked at Liv. Through the bond, she felt his certainty, his absolute, unwavering commitment. "She's half-Selkie," he said. I'm 100% boring wolf with no special abilities whatsoever. If anything, she's the one settling. He took Liv's hand. I can't follow her into the deep. I can't breathe underwater or fight sea witches without nearly dying. But I can protect her on land. I can stand beside her in boardrooms and ballrooms and village council meetings. I can spend the rest of my life making sure she never has to face anything alone. He paused, and a hint of his dry humor crept back into his voice. Also, next time there's an underwater monster, I'm bringing a bigger knife. Maybe a harpoon, possibly a small submarine. He looked at Liv's mother. Do submarines work against dark magic? I feel like submarines should work. Liv's mother laughed. It was a beautiful sound, like water over rocks, like wind through sails. I like him, she said to Liv. He's ridiculous. He's mine, Liv said, and she meant it. Yes. Her mother's smile was bittersweet. He is, and you're his. The bond between you is strong, stronger than any I've seen in centuries. You were always meant to find each other. She began to sink back into the water, her form shimmering. Wait, Liv said. Will I see you again? In dreams? In the current? In every wave that touches your shore? Her mother's eyes were bright with tears. I love you, my daughter. I have always loved you, and I am so proud of the woman you've become. I love you too, Mama. Her mother smiled one last time, and then she was gone, dissolving into moonlight and water, leaving only ripples behind. Liv stared at the empty sea. Cassian's arm came around her shoulders, pulling her close. So, he said quietly, half Selkie. Half Selkie. That explains the affinity for water. The breathing thing. The fact that you're most comfortable on a jet ski in the middle of the ocean. I thought I was just good at my job. You are good at your job. You're also part sea creature. Both can be true. He pressed a kiss to her temple. For what it's worth, I meant what I said. Every word. Even the part about the submarine? Especially the part about the submarine. I'm going to research underwater combat vehicles tomorrow. Nathan can help. He loves a project. Liv laughed. It came out watery, pun unintended, but real. We're stranded on a rock in the middle of the ocean, she said. True. My dress is ruined. Also true. But it served its purpose. You looked incredible. You saved a village, and then you saved my life. I'd say it earned its keep. Surf is going to be unbearable about this. He'll say he knew about my heritage all along. He'll claim he sensed it through his audiobook-enhanced intuition or something. Probably. He'll want to write a book about it. The Half-Selkie's Redemption, a husky's guide to discovering your true nature. Almost certainly. Liv leaned into Cassian's warmth. Thank you, she said quietly, for coming after me, for stabbing the witch, for accepting me even when I turned out to be half sea creature. You bit me within 5 minutes of meeting me, Cassian said. After that, nothing about you could possibly be surprising. I think my mother visiting from the ocean depths to explain my magical heritage is at least a little surprising. Mildly surprising. I'm adjusting my expectations accordingly. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the moon reflect off the water. Then a sound cut through the night. An engine, getting closer. A speedboat appeared around the far edge of the rock, its headlights cutting through the darkness. At the wheel, looking deeply concerned and slightly windswept, was Nathan. And standing at the bow, bow tie somehow still intact, was Surf. There you are, Surf announced at maximum volume. I have been very worried. When you disappeared beneath the surface, I experienced what I can only describe as psychological distress. It was very unpleasant. I would like to not repeat it. We're fine, Liv called back. You are stranded on a rock in the middle of the ocean. That is not the definition of fine. That is the definition of maritime emergency. Surf sat down as Nathan maneuvered the boat closer. Also, I saw a woman made of water deposit you on this rock and then sink back into the sea. I have questions, many questions. I will be asking them in order of importance, starting with, was that your mother? Yes. And she's a Selkie? Yes. Which makes you half Selkie. Apparently. Surf was quiet for a moment. I knew it, he said finally. I always knew there was something special about you. Your affinity for water, your ability to hold your breath longer than any wolf should, your inexplicable fondness for sushi." He nodded sagely. "It all makes sense now. I should have realized sooner. I blame the limited audiobook selection on marine mythology. I've submitted several requests to expand the category." Nathan pulled the boat alongside the rock. "Are you both okay?" he asked, and his voice held genuine concern beneath the usual charm. "When you went under, Cass, I thought—" "I'm fine," Cassian said. "Liv saved me." "With underwater mouth to mouth," Surf added. "I saw the whole thing from the surface. Very romantic, very dramatic. 10 out of 10 for style." "It wasn't romantic," Liv said. "It was life-saving. Those aren't mutually exclusive. Some of the best romances involve life-saving. Have you read Jane Eyre? Rochester was literally on fire. Very dramatic, very effective." "I haven't read Jane Eyre." "You should. There's an audiobook, 12 hours, exquisite narration." Nathan helped them into the boat. Surf immediately climbed into Liv's lap, pressing his wet fur against her ruined dress like he was trying to ensure they matched. The boat turned toward shore, and Liv leaned against Cassian's shoulder, Surf warm in her lap, the stars wheeling overhead. She had almost died tonight, but she hadn't, and somehow, impossibly, everything was going to be okay. And that's Claimed by the Harbor. Thank you for spending this time with us. If Surf made you laugh, if Liv made you cheer, if Cassian stabbing a sea witch with a borrowed knife made your heart do things it shouldn't, let me know in the comments. I read every single one. Don't forget the bonus chapter featuring the village celebration and Surf's new husky family. Link in the description and pinned in the first comment. If you want more shifter romances with heart, humor, and animal sidekicks who quote Tolstoy, like and subscribe so you never miss a story. And share with a friend who needs a book boyfriend in their life. The entire collection lives at happynovels.com. Come find your next favorite. Got a story idea? A trope you're craving? A sidekick animal that needs their moment? Drop it below. Your suggestion might just become the next video. I'm Deanne Leo, and this story is part of the Happy Novels collection. Thank you for listening. Until next time, stay cool and stay in love.